Well, hello there, everybody. It's Grandpa Scott, and I'm back again for a new story today. And it's December, and we're starting to think a lot about Christmas now. So, Grandpa Scott's got a special story for you. But with every special story, sometimes there's a special hat. Have you ever seen anybody wear a hat like this? Oh, you have? Santa Claus? Well, this is a Christmas story today, and it's one of my favorite. It's a little bit longer, but you might want to go ask Mom or Dad for a cup of hot chocolate, and then you can sit and watch Grandpa read you this story. It'll be a good one. It's A Charlie Brown Christmas. Are you ready to start? Great, let's go. A Charlie Brown Christmas. I don't know, Linus. I just don't know, said Charlie Brown with a sigh. What's wrong, Charlie Brown? Asked Linus. It's Christmas time again, said Charlie Brown, and every year the same thing happens. Everyone is full of cheer, everyone but me. Well, that's kind of sad. Oh, Charlie Brown, said Linus impatiently, you're the only one in the world who could be unhappy about a wonderful holiday like Christmas. Well, I happen to like Christmas, and I'm happy for whatever joy this holiday brings others, he added. Linus started walking home. I guess you're right, Linus. See you tomorrow, Charlie Brown called, and then slowly walked home by himself. I don't get this. It just doesn't seem fair, said Charlie Brown as he checked his mailbox. Why does everyone else get Christmas cards? Look at that, he said, as he noticed Snoopy reading a card. Even my own dog gets a greeting card. It's not right, Charlie Brown said as he walked away. Why do they have to make holidays like this? Instead of making me feel happy, Christmas just makes me feel like no one cares about me. He thought for a moment. Then he said, I think I'll go to Lucy for some good advice. I don't know about that. Charlie Brown walked up to Lucy's advice booth. What seems to be the problem, Charlie Brown? Asked Lucy. I haven't been feeling well lately, said Charlie Brown. In fact, I'm very sad, he began. Said Lucy. Before we begin, would you mind paying for my advice? I need money to buy myself a Christmas present that I really want. Oh, good grief, said Charlie Brown, sighing. 5 cents, please, Lucy said. Charlie Brown dropped a nickel in the box. Thank you, said Lucy. Now, what's the trouble, Charlie Brown? Well, the problem is that I'm unhappy all the time, replied Charlie Brown. I know it's Christmas, and I should be full of good cheer, but I'm not. It's the same thing every year. Instead of feeling happier as usual, I just feel worse. Nobody ever sends me Christmas cards or invites me to Christmas parties or asks me to go caroling. I just can't seem to find the right Christmas spirit, he said. I know exactly what you need, Charlie Brown, Lucy said. You need a real Christmas project, something that would make you feel part of Christmas. Would you like to be the director of the school's Christmas play, she asked. Me? A director? Said Charlie Brown. But I wouldn't know what to do. It's easy, said Lucy. I'll help you. Meet me at the school at 3 o'clock. Lucy and Charlie Brown began walking home. By the way, Charlie Brown, called Lucy, I know just how you feel. I never get anything out of Christmas either. Just some stupid old toys or some silly old doll, she said. What do you really want for Christmas, Lucy? Charlie Brown asked. Cash, Lucy replied. Oh, good grief, said Charlie Brown. Then Snoopy walked by carrying a bunch of Christmas lights. I wonder what Snoopy is going to do with all those lights, Charlie Brown asked himself. As he slowly walked home, Charlie Brown tried to figure out what he'd really wanted out of Christmas. Lost in his thoughts, Charlie Brown almost walked right by Snoopy's doghouse. Snoopy had decorated his house with so many Christmas lights that Charlie Brown hardly recognized it. What's going on here? Charlie Brown asked. Then he bent down to pick up a piece of paper that was lying on the ground beside the doghouse. Charlie Brown read what was written on the page. Find out what Christmas really means. Win lots of money in the Christmas lights display contest. Win lots of money? Is that the only reason for decorating a house with Christmas lights? Asked Charlie Brown in disbelief. Good grief! My own dog thinks Christmas is the way of making money. Whatever happened to Christmas carols and the true spirit of Christmas? Charlie Brown's having a tough time. In despair, Charlie Brown went home. Maybe my little sister Sally can think of a way to help me feel better about Christmas, he thought. When he got home, Sally did have a lot to say about Christmas, but it wasn't quite what Charlie Brown had in mind. Where have you been, big brother? Sally asked as she ran up to Charlie Brown. I need a favor. I want you to write a letter to Santa Claus for me. I'll tell you exactly what to say, she added. Sally began her letter to Santa, speaking as fast as she possibly could. Dear Santa, how are you? Did you have a nice year? How are Mrs. Claus and the elves? I have been very good this year, and I have a long list of presents. And if it's all too much trouble, you can just send me money. Oh my. Send you money? Good grief, Charlie Brown couldn't believe his ears. I can't take it anymore. Even my baby sister thinks that Christmas means cash, he shouted. Charlie Brown grabbed his coat and his hat and he headed out into the cold winter world. Charlie Brown walked and walked. He didn't understand his sister or Snoopy or Lucy. Did Christmas mean only money and prizes and presents? There must be some way to show that Christmas means more, he said to himself. Christmas should be about hope and joy and giving to others. Then he thought for a moment. Maybe Lucy's advice will help. I'll direct the Christmas play. I'll put in love and hope and all that stuff. I'll show them what Christmas really means. Charlie Brown decided as he headed to the school auditorium. When Charlie Brown arrived, everyone in the play was waiting for him. Charlie Brown could tell he had a lot of work to do if he was ever going to get this Christmas play off the ground. Here he is now, Lucy called out, the director of our Christmas play, Charlie Brown. Okay, everybody, Charlie Brown began. We have a very important job to do here. We're going to put on a play that will show everyone the true spirit of Christmas. We're going to have joy and hope and love in this play. All the things that Christmas is supposed to be about. What do you say? Am I right? Am I right? Charlie Brown asked with enthusiasm. No one answered. Hey, why isn't anyone listening to the director? That's one of the first rules of being in the play. How else are we going to finish all the things we have to do today? Then he turned to Lucy, and in his most official voice, Charlie Brown said, Lucy, hand out the scripts, please. Lucy walked over to each cast member. She handed them the scripts and told them what part they were playing. She gave Linus his script last. You are going to play a shepherd, whether you like it or not, Lucy said. So you better learn your lines and get rid of that stupid blanket, she said. Oh, that Lucy's kind of hard sometimes. This is one shepherd who's going to keep his trusty blanket with him, Linus said, and he wrapped his blanket around his head, and he looked like a real shepherd. All right, everyone, listen to me, called out Charlie Brown. We're going to practice the scene at the end. But the cast members were too busy dancing and talking among themselves. They weren't paying any attention to Charlie Brown at all. What's going on here? Stop it, shouted Charlie Brown. What is it, Charlie Brown? Someone asked. Let's get to work, he said. Linus, I want you and Sally to stand over there. What do you want Sally for? Linus asked, afraid of Charlie Brown's answer. She's going to play your wife, Charlie Brown replied. Oh, good grief, said Linus. It's bad enough that I have to be a stupid shepherd in this play without having to have Sally for my wife. Sally was quite happy to come over and stand with Linus. She had been hoping that Charlie Brown would pick her to be Linus's wife. "Oh, isn't this sweet Babu adorable?" said Sally, giving Linus a big hug. "Rats," said Linus underneath his blanket. I don't think he was too excited about it. "Doesn't anyone here understand what we're trying to do?" asked Charlie Brown. "What do you mean, Charlie Brown?" asked Lucy. "Nobody around here seems to have the right Christmas spirit," he answered. "All they care about is what parts they are playing. We should all be working together to show the true meaning of Christmas to the audience." "Face it, Charlie Brown," said Lucy. "Nobody agrees with your silly ideas about the real spirit of Christmas." But Charlie Brown didn't want to believe that. "Wait a minute," he says. "I know just what this play needs. A Christmas tree to put us all in the right mood. Come on, Linus, let's go out and get one." "That's a great idea." Linus and Charlie Brown got their coats and hats and headed for the Christmas tree sale. "Make sure you get a really nice Christmas tree," said Lucy. "Something shiny and bright and pink and plastic," she suggested. "Try to do something right for a change, Charlie Brown." Wow. Charlie Brown and Linus walked around and around the Christmas tree lot, but Charlie Brown couldn't seem to find the right kind of tree he was looking for. "Gee, Linus," he said, "they sure don't make Christmas trees like they used to." Just then, Charlie Brown spotted a tree he wanted. It was the smallest tree on the lot. Most of its needles had fallen off, but it was a real live tree. "That's it! That's our tree!" Charlie Brown shouted happily. "I don't know, Charlie Brown," Linus said. "Remember what Lucy said? I don't think that tree fits the modern spirit of Christmas." Charlie Brown wasn't listening. He went up to gather the tree to take it back to the school. "We found it," said Charlie Brown when he and Linus returned to the school. "It's the perfect Christmas tree." Then he proudly held up the tree for everyone to see. "You call that scrawny little thing a tree?" Lucy sneered. "Can't you do anything right, Charlie Brown? That's not the kind of Christmas tree we need." And the other cast members agreed with Lucy. "I guess I shouldn't have picked this tree," said Charlie Brown sadly. "I guess I really don't understand what Christmas is all about. Can anyone tell me what the true meaning of Christmas is?" "I can, Charlie Brown," Linus said. Then he stepped to the front of the stage and quietly told the story of Christmas, the day that baby Jesus was born. Now there's a story. "And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in their field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you, that you will find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill toward men." As Linus spoke, one by one the cast members packed up their books and left the stage. By the time Linus finished his story, he and Charlie Brown were the only ones left. Then Charlie Brown headed home, taking his little tree with him. Linus is right. I won't let pink Christmas trees or dogs who enter decoration contests ruin my Christmas, Charlie Brown said as he passed Snoopy's doghouse. I'll just take this tree and I'll make it the most beautiful Christmas tree in all the world, said Charlie Brown. Then Charlie Brown borrowed one of Snoopy's Christmas ornaments and placed it on his little tree, but the ornament was too heavy, and the tree just bent right over. "Oh no, I've killed it, Charlie Brown." "Oh," Charlie Brown cried that. "I can't even decorate a tree." He left the tree and ran home. Then Linus came along and he found the tree in the snow. "You're not such a bad little tree," Linus said. "You just need a little love." He's right. One by one, everyone else from the play came to the tree and began to help Linus decorate it. And in no time, it looked just like a Christmas tree should. I think this was just the kind of tree Charlie Brown was talking about, Linus said. Just then, Charlie Brown came back. He was sorry he had left the little tree all alone in the snow. "What's this? What's going on?" Charlie Brown said. "Is that beautiful tree my little Christmas tree?" he asked in surprise. His friends smiled and happily nodded their heads. "Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!" Linus shouted with joy. Charlie Brown clasped his hands. He felt as warm and happy inside. "At last, I feel like it's Christmas," Charlie Brown said. "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night," he added cheerfully, as he and his friends began caroling. And they sang a song. Maybe you know this song. It's called "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." And they all sang, "Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Well, that is a wonderful story. And I know that was pretty rough having Grandpa Scott sing that song by himself without any practice and without any help. But I think I had a lot of help today, because I felt like each one of you were right here with me today. And I wish you the merriest of Christmases, and Grandpa Scott loves you all. And you know, even though Charlie Brown's story is over, it isn't over, because now's the time to go outside and have some fun and enjoy what the real Christmas spirit is all about. You have a Merry, Merry Christmas from Grandpa Scott.